Hi everyone and welcome. I am James Milan. Welcome to this episode of The $1 Million Gift. The $1 Million Gift is ACMI's attempt to both celebrate and perhaps quantify the, one would say, invaluable contributions of volunteers in our community. So we're going to be out talking to folks from all areas of the community about a variety of different projects that enhance the quality of life for all of us here in Arlington. Joining me today is John Pickle, a longtime Arlington resident, who is, I think, the architect of one community project, we can call it, that's been going on for quite a while here in Arlington. I think it started in 2005, if I recall.
2005, yes.
Mm-hmm. So I just first of all ask you to go ahead and explain what it is that you're doing.
Well, the project is called the Picture Post Project. And what it does is it's a citizen science project, meaning people contribute their time in a volunteer basis to collect information about our landscapes and then share them in such a way that they're useful for community planning, for actual environmental monitoring, and for education. So one set of activities does three large-scale components. And so we're here at Menominee Rocks Park today, which is where it actually was invented. At the time, I was in charge of a large NASA grant called Measuring Vegetation Health. And I wanted to get people to collect information in an easy way while also helping them learn to get information from a digital image. Because NASA's been collecting satellite images for such a long time, but that's very abstract. So I was looking for something, and I brought this idea to the Friends of Menominee Rocks Park, which I was a board member at the time. And we brainstormed, we had some engineers in the group, and we came up with this octagonal head, sitting on a horizontal post, so that we could take photos of 8 photos to capture the entire landscape, 1 photo straight up, and then we had it all. And then we created a website.
Kind of 360-degree panoramic view.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But what was nice about this is it was for the most part, it's vandal-proof. In the past, it would take a lot of money to set up a camera in the wilds or anywhere, and then get the information efficiently. And this became a project that people would take the photos and then go home and upload them via their computer. Now we have a cell phone app that makes it even much easier.
So initially, you'd have the posts set up in particular places, or in here at Menominee Rocks Park, for instance. And then people would be invited, or the volunteers would, using their own cameras, come in and take this panoramic view. What was the frequency with which you were aiming at that time, and how long would it take to do one's job, so to speak, of taking photos at any given time?
Well, back in the beginning, I was for here at Menominee Rocks, I was the main photographer, and I would take photos every dog walk. And so it was almost on a daily basis, which is actually, that would be the optimal amount. You can see so much. It's amazing. People can't believe this, but we can actually measure the new growth on a tree trunk every day with a cell phone camera. I mean, it's just, and so I teach, and when I did this data, because we have a post at Concord Academy, kids were like, "What? You can see this?" And so once a day would be nice. If we had more people taking them, you never know what nature's doing in the course of in the course of a day. And if we were photographing that, we can come back and analyze it. So once a day would be great. once a week is still good. Once a month, you take what you get.
Right. The more volunteers, the better, though. Right.
Exactly.
That's part of the point here.
Right.
And then I'm fascinated by what you guys through this project have been kind of at the forefront of, which is, as you were just saying, people would be amazed to find out the changes that are discernible. And I think, yes, whether it's your own children or your own garden or whatever, when you're there all the time, you don't feel like you're able to perceive those differences or the slight changes that are happening. But you guys are taking snapshots in time, and then even if it's just 24 hours between those, you're saying you can really learn to see.
Yes. Oh, exactly. And you see different things at different times of year. So, like, for example, when we have this gorgeous tree, now we have full canopy cover. This tree is adding wood, but it turns out because we take the photo straight up, I analyzed the timing of the canopy, and the tree doesn't start to add new wood until you have about 90% of the leaf cover filled in. So first it takes the energy to make the leaves. Now it has enough extra to grow the tree. Just things like that. I was like, really?
Yeah, who would know that, right?
Right.
How could you know that?
And I didn't have to go to someone else's research. It was just sitting there in the images, and just with free image analysis software, boom, there it is.
So why don't we go and check out one of these platforms, and you can show us exactly how this can be done.
We'll take you to the oldest one.
All right, that sounds great.
Great.
So I'm curious to know a little bit about what changes have taken place even within the way that you do this, as technological innovation has happened over the last 12 years. So how long did it used to take you to do a set of pictures, and how long does it take now?
Well, in the past, it's still relatively quick to take the photos. Getting the photos to the website used to be rather laborious. Now we have a cell phone app so that we have our post right here. I basically turn on the app, find the post. It finds it for me, actually, because it's GPS. And you see, so it finds the closest post. It says you're like 0 feet from it. It's like, oh, select that one. Come over here, and if you notice, we have engraved where north is. And all you do is take the camera, set it up here, take the photos.
I see you have a hexagonal, looks like
that's our 8 photos.
Block of wood, so you're able to use that as your guide.
And this is level, so it's holding the camera, so we can basically get the same view every time I come back. And we take all 8 photos, and then I take the last one, I line up the edge north, lean it back, shoot up. Now I get a little bit of this tree, but I also get cloud cover. And then when it gets uploaded to the website, a new feature that happens is it finds the satellite image closest in space and time and cuts it out and shows it. So now we can actually say, oh, those clouds, and you can see it, how it connects to the bigger features. As well as, if it's not much clouds, you can actually see your small location and start to take this idea of, in a forest, you have 3 basic components. You have the tree canopy, you have the shrub layer, and then you have the herbaceous layer. Now, from a satellite, when you're looking straight down, all you basically see is green. And what scientists need is to know, especially during the spring, what part of the forest is greening up. So that means that image of those colors represent that those plants.
Right.
And so we
that
provide
stage that they are at that time.
Exactly. And so it really is a fabulous tool for real research. Now, if you just take a look here, this is a button bush. So when we photograph this, we can actually count the number of button bushes. How does this change year to year? Same place every year on the tree. How long do they last? When does it start? This timing of plants and animals to the season is called phenology. And several factors can cause changes in this. One of them is climate change. Another is human use of an area. And then the last is, disease. So which can be related to climate change or can be to pollution.
Right, or it can be related to human use of the area, I assume.
Exactly. So, but collecting information, it's kind of like a doctor. You know, they might look at your eyes for one piece of information that tells them a little bit about you, but it doesn't tell you about. So, in a sense, we're photographing one part of a larger system, but now that we have more posts around the country, we can start to knit this information together, tie it with satellites, and you really get a valuable environmental tool.
So you're saying I noticed you said more posts around the country. So this is a national phenomenon or a national movement.
Yes.
And are in fact virtually all parts of the country covered at some point, at least minimally, with
New England
these
is the
kinds of
most,
posts?
but it's starting to really spread. Not as much in the Midwest, but around the periphery. But it's starting to go across the country. I mean, it's so cheap. You know, this whole thing. You know, this is a $20 post cap. You can get this if you get it on sale, maybe at, $7. It's 7 feet long, so you need to borrow a pickaxe, dig it down, tamp it, set it up, and then it lasts.
And it will last, I assume.
Yeah.
You said this is the oldest such platforms in this area.
Yeah. No, this is the first.
It is the first one,
Yep.
and it's now 12 years old then,
Yes.
I assume?
Yeah.
And it looks to me like it's lasting just fine.
I mean, it's kind of fun. You see where, it's been a billboard for a lot of projects. You know, kids use it. They put their skates up here. They clean their skates off with it but then we also can, document how long the ice lasts. Water depth. You can get water quality. You can see how, the pollen accumulating on the water. So you get all these estimates. It's not just the plants. Right now they're mowing the lawn. How often does it get mowed? And is it growing the right way? Afterward. Could we mow it more? Could we mow it less? So there's a wide range of. That's what I was talking about, the community planning. When we treat this, because we do have pondweed, we can actually document how it responds and does it do an adequate job. When we pulled purple loosestrife, an invasive plant, did we get everything? Did it come back? We can actually go and look at the photographs. So it helps us, review what we do to preserve our community. Is it doing the best job possible?
Yeah, so I can really start to get a sense of what the value is of what you're doing and the information that you're accumulating here, and then disseminating, making available to anybody who might be interested from idle curiosity. Hey, what can I see? How does that, just give us an example or two of the kind of use?
Well, Boston University did a really nice study that urban heat island impacts a city out to 10 kilometers away from the city itself. Just because, you have this tower of, yes, a lot of heat, but it affects the surrounding region. If we have a fair number of these, we can see down to an even finer scale what's, besides it greening up earlier and lasting longer, are we getting more drought, less drought, more pollution, less pollution. So this adds more data from the ground, higher resolution, higher quality data that we can't get from satellite. We're tied in with the National Phenology Network, so we're providing a good source of data that way. I think now that we're past a decade, and now you have this data, and you start to see the amount of change that happens in a decade with high quality, high resolution data, I think then you can start to go to more scientists as well as policymakers saying, this is a valuable tool.
This relies, of course, as this series is all about, on the power and the energy of volunteers. Have the number of volunteers been consistent from the beginning for this project? Is it growing? Where are you at with that?
A while ago, we did a project. I used to work at the Museum of Science, and we honored people who collected weather data for the cooperative extension for National Weather Service. And we had people who had collected weather data daily for 40 straight years.
40 years. Wow.
And we were honoring people from anywhere from 20 to 40. And there are some people who are just data people. And once you get hooked, like you just bring your camera just because you want to be contributing to the data. And so we don't grow on, complete on trees. We're very select trees, but we're definitely out there. But once you get someone like that involved, they really just, well, I'm on the Arlington Open Space Committee, and they've been my colleagues have been incredibly supportive. And so really sharing more leads to get it into more parks and more places around Arlington, helping actually install some of them in Arlington Reservoir last year. So, and just getting the word out, not once they get in, once they get put in, because even, most of us on the Arlington Open Space Committee, we go walking in certain places a lot, and we're on the friends groups and we talk it up, and it's so they help build the people being exposed to decide to help.
What are some of the other places in Arlington that currently have this capacity, and where are you thinking or hoping to add more?
Well, we have 4 in this park. 1 here, 1 across the pond in that field, 2 up in the hills, and then we have 3 around the Arlington Res. So we have 7 right now in the Arlington area. However, Spy Pond would be a fabulous place. Robbins Farm would be spectacular for a number of reasons. Because in addition to looking at, when you have plants up close, you can make those measurements. But if you're up on that scenic view and you shoot down at Boston, you actually have a fabulous air quality indicator. I mean, a real scientific tool. So I'd love to get one there. Magnolia Field. They go pretty fast. Magnolia Field, Millbrook.
So basically, if I could, I guess what I hear you saying is open spaces in Arlington, really, virtually all open spaces could be could be of benefit in terms of getting more of this data.
When you look around, I mean, we have a maple here, we have a buttonbush here. By photographing those, you really look at one species or different species, how they respond. Going to different places in Arlington, you'd be documenting different species, which really makes it more powerful if you have more going to different parts of the country. If you have the same species in that, you can start to compare how do the different species respond to that given environment, how do they differ?
I'm curious about one thing that you said, and that was you were talking about how great it would be in terms of getting good data around air quality to be up at Robbins Farm at what we call Skyline Park, yes. Right? Because looking down at that tremendous view of the Boston skyline that we are all privileged to be able to access so easily. Yep. So that got me thinking, okay, open spaces makes sense to me. The intersection of man and nature in that way, that also makes sense. I'm wondering, we've got that long spine of Mass Ave, which is not very natural part of Arlington. Right. Is there anything to be gained from having this kind of technology, again, employed in an environment like that?
What a fun question. Yes. Any place where you have plants, because plants can't move or don't tend to move. So they're the perfect environmental indicator, because how they're responding. It's like you and I. Like, I grew up in Pennsylvania, and I was at 3 Mile Island the weekend before it melted down. Yeah, so I mean, I have a vast environmental history, but all over the place. So you never know what if you get ill, what was the reason. But for a plant, what's so perfect is that hasn't moved. So you're seeing air quality, water quality, drought, flood, erosion, all from a given location. So Mass Ave, you wouldn't take as many photos, let's say, but you could take photos of just the plants and just and upload those. That's a great idea. Because you would actually want to compare how do the plants in a more natural setting, or at least we'd have a community of plants around them, versus an isolated plant, how are they doing in probably some of the harshest conditions?
Yeah, that's what I would assume, right? Yeah. Is that you generally find that plants are on the margin there, and when they're surrounded by concrete and being passed by emissions,
right?
Spewing vehicles,
exactly.
etc.
They're like us. They take it in. They take that air in and process it. Mm-hmm. And there's certain plants, like you see some of these dying, but these white pines are actually very good ozone. They're very susceptible to ozone, ground level ozone, and fabulous tool for air quality that affects humans as well.
Okay, so one other thing that we would really like to know at this point, and that is, you're clearly dedicated to this project and have been for quite a long while now. What is it, what can you share with others who would be listening and watching about what motivated you to get involved with this? What keeps you going with it all the time? What is that source of your own kind of volunteer vigor?
Well, there's a lot. One really is I love Arlington. I mean, I'm not trying to be, when I moved here, I found it very special. I've lived in different parts of the world. I'm a former Air Force.
So this is better than 3 Mile Island?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, but the community spirit is phenomenal. Even in this region, Arlington has something special. They really get involved, and I wanted to be involved. And so early on, I actually met my wife here at Honey Rocks Park.
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, this park is, means a lot to me, but I got involved with the friends very quickly because it was a very special place. And I feel, now with open space, and I've been involved with Arlington Education Enrichment Fund, people care about this region, I mean, this town, and what's going on with its people and its community. And
its natural environment.
Yes, exactly. And so I kind of feel like this project helps connect a lot of that. It brings me my passion, but also it does something for the community in a relatively easy way.
Well, I want to thank you very much, John, for sharing both so much information about a project I have to admit I didn't know about, and I'm glad I do now. Very glad.
Well, I like your idea. Thank you for that.
Yeah, a little tiny contribution, maybe. You never know. But also just sharing your story of what living here means to you, and how much of this this kind of perseverance that you've clearly shown over 12 years and going into the future comes from your appreciation for being here in this town, which I have to admit I share. So appreciate it very much. Thanks for that. And that will wrap up this segment, this episode of the $1 Million Gift. We will see you again soon. I'm James Milan. Thanks for joining us.